I moved to a Stirangi apartment. I was given Owen Raleigh to follow. The apartment didn't want me there. I could tell the moment I stepped inside. It wasn't the usual kind of unease. No smell of mold. No flicker of roaches scurrying beneath the baseboards. It was something quieter, subtler. The kind of wrong that hides in the air itself. Every breath I took felt borrowed. Like the building was waiting for me to finish, so it could exhale again. But I didn't care. I needed a place, any place, to start over. After my brother died, silence became unbearable in my old house. Every creak sounded like his footsteps. Every door that shut too slowly made me think he was still there, closing it from the other side. So when I saw the ad for a one-bedroom apartment in the heart of the city, cheap, furnished, no credit check, I took it without thinking. A landlord, a man named Holloway, met me at the entrance. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in years. Cheeks hollow, eyes too bright. His smile was polite but stretched too wide. "You're lucky," he said as he handed me the keys. "The last tenant didn't even make it a full month." "Bad neighborhood?" I asked. He hesitated. Then, "Not exactly. Just remember this." He raised a finger, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Never open your door after midnight. No matter what you hear." I laughed nervously. "That's oddly specific." His expression didn't change. "It's the only rule. Break it, and you'll regret it." The apartment itself was fine. Dull, but fine. The walls were an uncommitted beige. The carpet flattened underfoot like memory foam that never remembered anything. There was a window overlooking the alley behind the building, but it was too high to see much. Just the hint of brick and the neon halo of the bar across the street. Still, it was quiet. And quiet was all I wanted. I unpacked in silence, letting my new life click into place like the sound of a door locking behind me. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks. The first few days were uneventful. I worked remotely, ate cheap noodles, and watched the city bleed color through my window each evening. But then the noises began. At first, they were faint, shuffling in the hallway, a soft scrape like furniture being dragged across the floor above. I assumed the other tenants were night owls. The walls were thin, after all. Then came the knocking. It started at 12:07 a.m. exactly. 3 slow knocks. Always the same rhythm: tap, tap, tap. I waited frozen, staring at the door. Whoever it was didn't speak, didn't move. Just knocked. Then silence. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. It was typed on yellowed paper. "You heard it, didn't you? Keep the door closed." I stared at it for a long time before crumpling it up and tossing it. Prank. Probably. By the third night, the knocks returned. Louder this time. 2:07 a.m. Tap, tap, tap. I pulled the covers to my chin and told myself not to look. But curiosity is a slow disease. By the 6th night, I couldn't resist anymore. I crept to the door and peered through the peephole. At first, I saw nothing. Just the dim corridor, stretching in both directions. Then something moved in the periphery. A flicker of motion, too close to focus on. A shadow that didn't match any light source. It seemed to notice me. The air on my side of the door changed. Denser somehow. Charged like a held breath. Then a voice. Faint, cracked, trembling. "Please, it's so cold out here." The voice sounded familiar. I stepped back, heart thudding. My brother's voice echoed in memory. "Please, it's so cold." I pressed my hands to my ears. "Not real," I whispered. "Not real." The knocking stopped. But from the other side of the door came a whisper. "You promised you'd never leave me." The next morning, I noticed something wrong with the door. The paint around the handle had bubbled slightly, like it had been exposed to heat. When I touched it, the metal felt cold enough to burn. I went to find Holloway. His office was on the first floor, tucked behind a frosted glass door with no nameplate. When I entered, he was already looking at me. as if he'd been waiting. "I told you not to open it," he said before I spoke. "I didn't," I said, breathless. "I swear I didn't. But someone was out there. Someone who knew my—" I stopped. Holloway leaned back, eyes narrowing. "It's not someone. It's the building." He gestured to the walls around us. This place was built wrong. Rooms where there shouldn't be rooms. Corridors that loop back into themselves. The walls remember things, and sometimes they want to be heard. I stared at him. "You expect me to believe that?" He smiled, a tired, pitying smile. "Belief doesn't matter. Only obedience." That night, I taped the edges of my door shut. I turned the music up, left the lights on, tried to drown everything out. Still, 12:07 a.m. Tap, tap, tap. My heart pounded against my ribs. Then came the voice again, softer this time. "I can see you through the keyhole." The air shifted, heavy with cold. My phone screen flickered. "If you won't open it," the voice whispered, "I'll come in another way." I woke at dawn to find a hairline crack running down the wall opposite the door. It pulsed faintly, as though something behind it was breathing. The following days bled together. Every time I blinked, the walls seemed to move slightly. Closer, narrower. The lights dimmed unpredictably, leaving brief pockets of darkness that lasted just long enough to make me wonder if I was still alone. I stopped answering emails. I stopped eating. The knocking became constant. Sometimes, even during the day, I'd hear faint tapping beneath the floorboards, behind the cabinets, inside the walls. I tried to sleep in the bathroom one night, but the drain gurgled like it was whispering something I couldn't quite understand. I began to see him, my brother, in reflections. Standing behind me in the window, smiling. His eyes were empty, his mouth whispering, "Let me in." Holloway stopped answering his phone. I went to his office again, but the door was gone. Not locked, gone. Just wallpaper where the frame used to be. That was when I realized the building was changing. The hallway outside my apartment stretched longer each day. New doors appeared, none of them numbered. When I tried to open one, the handle turned but revealed nothing beyond it. Just a wall of black, too deep to be shadow, too silent to be empty. And still and 12:07 tap, tap, tap. Only now the sound came from inside. I haven't slept in 3 days. The walls move when I blink. The ceiling breathes in rhythm with my pulse. Sometimes I hear Holloway's voice through the vents, whispering apologies. Sometimes it's my brother. Sometimes it's both, blended into one long, wordless hum that vibrates in my skull until I taste iron. I know what it wants now. It doesn't want blood or screams. It wants attention. The building feeds on the moment between hearing and believing. That flicker of fear when you're not sure if you imagine the sound. That's where it lives. I thought I could resist it. But it's patient. It waits. It whispers. It remembers. The next night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat in the corner of the apartment, knees pressed to my chest, eyes fixed on the door. The clock crept toward 1200 a.m., dragging every second behind it like a weight. The walls shifted imperceptibly, inching closer, narrowing the room. My chest tightened with each breath. 12:07 a.m. The tapping began. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move. My hands were pressed to my ears, but the sound penetrated anyway, vibrating through bone. Then came the whisper. Open the door. No longer a soft plea. No longer hesitant. This was a demand. The voice was my brother's, twisted, hollow, yet intimate. It knew me. It had always known me. I pressed my forehead to the door. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to tear the walls down. But my body refused. The apartment had me. It had been patient all these nights, slowly building, feeding, and now it struck with precision. The handle rattled. Something scraped along the wood like fingernails, slow at first, then frantic, desperate. I could feel the vibration in my feet, in my spine. The air smelled like rust and wet dust. I wanted to obey. I wanted to open the door. And then I remembered Holloway's warning. Do not open your door after midnight. My hands shook as I gripped the edge of the doorknob. It was icy. I could hear breathing on the other side. My brother's voice merged with the whisper of something else. Something older, something inhuman. It's waiting. Open it. Let it see you. I screamed. My own voice rang hollow, bouncing off the walls. The knocking intensified, becoming a torrent of sound, every tap hammering into my skull. My vision blurred. I pressed both hands over my ears. Then silence. Absolute silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums until you hear something that isn't there. Morning came. Or what I convinced myself was morning. The apartment had changed again. The walls were no longer beige. They pulsed faintly, an almost imperceptible pink that throbbed like a heartbeat. The ceiling sagged enough to feel like it could collapse any second. My door was gone. Not removed. Not replaced. Gone. In its place was a small window, too high to see out of, glowing faintly from within the wall. Behind the glass, shadows shifted. Figures moved. They didn't speak, but I could feel their attention. I tried to run. I grabbed my coat, my bag, my phone, anything. But every exit led to more doors, more corridors I hadn't noticed before. They looped impossibly, stretching longer than the building should allow, twisting back on themselves. The apartment had grown overnight, reshaped by some unseen hand. I screamed into the hallways. My voice echoed, distorted. There was no reply, just tapping. Tap, 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 always at 12:07 a.m. By the third day, I had lost all sense of time. The sun outside might have risen, might have set. I didn't know. I stopped trying to leave. The corridors were a maze, the rooms changed every time I blinked. Furniture shifted positions on its own. Mirrors reflected impossible angles. I began to see figures in every reflection. Shadows in doorways. Faces pressed against the glass of the tiny window where my door had been. Sometimes it was just my brother. Sometimes it was Holloway. Sometimes, more terrifying, it was me, looking back at myself with hollow eyes, smiling just enough to be human, but not enough to be kind. I understood then the apartment wasn't just alive. I was hungry. It consumed memory, attention, and identity. It didn't merely want obedience. It wanted me. And I could feel it seeping into my mind. The tapping intensified each night. Now, it came from inside the apartment as well as outside the walls. Sometimes I would hear it under the floorboards, or behind the refrigerator, or beneath the ceiling panels. Always 12:07 a.m. I stopped eating. I stopped drinking. I stopped moving except to avoid the taps. I couldn't sleep. When I closed my eyes, I saw corridors that didn't exist, doors that weren't there, windows into rooms that had no walls. And in every vision, that voice whispered, "Open the door. Let me in. Remember me." I wanted to obey. I wanted to open the door. My body ached with it. My mind ached with it. But Holloway's words echoed in my fractured memory. No matter what you hear, no matter what time of night it happens, do not open your door after midnight. The fourth night, I didn't resist anymore. I sat in the center of the room, staring at the empty space where the door had been. The walls pulsed in time with my heartbeat. The lights flickered, dimming, brightening, dimming again. And then the tapping began, frenzied, rapid. A hammering into my skull. 12:07 a.m., the whisper came, now many voices layered together. My brother, Holloway, strangers I'd never met, the building itself. Truth. Open it, open it, open it. I wanted to scream, to cover my ears, to run. My body moved before my mind could think. I pressed my palms to the wall, and the plaster was soft, like flesh. I tore into it, there was nothing there. Then, slowly, impossibly, the space where my door had been began to open. Not like a door. Like the wall itself had liquefied and parted. A darkness yawned inside. Not black, not light, just an endless, pulsing void. It smelled of iron and decay. I heard movement in it, whispers from deeper than I could comprehend. "You finally came," it said. "You finally see." I stepped forward. My legs moved on their own, drawn to the void. My hands stretched toward the endless dark. And as I entered, I felt it, the building consuming me. Not violently. Not painfully. Not like falling or being struck. It was like sinking into memory itself. Every fear I had, every regret, every guilt, every moment of loneliness. The building absorbed it, rewove it, twisted it back into the space around me. I felt my mind splitting open, pouring into walls, floors, ceilings, corridors that had no name. The void spoke in every voice I had ever loved. "You belong here now." I don't know how long I floated in that space. Time had no meaning. My body existed, but it wasn't mine anymore. I could hear myself thinking, and yet it wasn't my thought. Every memory, every regret, every flicker of fear I had ever felt in this world replayed in infinite permutations. I understood something terrible, beautiful, and final. The building didn't just punish or trap. It is preserved. It rewrote reality around its tenants, until nothing remained of their resistance. Until nothing remained of their identity except what it chose to remember. And now, I did it. When the sun rose, or what might have been sunrise outside, in the world that still existed, I was gone. No neighbors, no police, no Holloway, no apartment 3A. All that remained was a faint vibration in the city at precisely 12:07 a.m., a whisper that moved through hallways, apartment walls, and the cracks in the sidewalks. "Open the door. Open the door. Open the door." The apartment would claim another tenant soon, and the building would remember me. I am not dead. I am not alive. I am inside. And when the next person moves in, I will greet them. I will whisper. I will tap. I will make them obey, because the rules are simple. The rule is everything. Never open the door after midnight, or you will disappear into memory, forever.